Okay, so it's getting close to Halloween, and I was thinking of a good spooky story right out of the Bible, and I found one. Nice, scary story. But like a lot of these scary movies I've noticed recently, it starts with a black card, and then there's like this in white or red. There's like a quote, and then you see who, and then it shows the name, and then the movie begins. So for this particular, if this was going to be a scary movie, right? This would be a black card, and what would be the script we'd see is from Psalms 46:10. Can you read that? It would actually just be the first part of it.
Yes.
But you can read all 46:10. That's cool.
All right. And this is the NIV version, just to clarify. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations, and I will be exalted in the earth.
Yeah, maybe the whole thing. I don't know, but it'd be still and know that I am God. God. Said it. And then our movie would begin. And I don't know what we'd call it yet, but we'll come up with a good title. But our story is in Mark.
Yes.
Mark 4:35. We're gonna start with. And what has happened is Jesus has been speaking to this huge crowd that's gathered, and he's been talking about. He's given the parable of the sower. He's given many parables. Even his own disciples come up to him and are like, "Man, what are these parables you're talking about? We don't know what you're talking about." It's like, "All right, let me spell it out for you." And then it gets to a point where Jesus obviously has heard his Father, and he's on a mission. He's been given a mission, and it's sending him to the other side, to the other side of where they are. So he's like, let's get in the boat, and let's go to the other side. And that would be not a big deal, except what is on the other side of the Sea of Galilee. Where they are, where they're positioned on the other side. Gerasene is Gerasene. There's different words for that, so definitely check it out, Google it, learn about the place. It was hell. This is the darkest place, especially if you're Jewish. This is a pagan place. There's tombs all over this area. There's human sacrifice. The island's just covered in swine, which is like the lowest of the lowest of animals in the Jewish faith. So just to add that extra little, like, it's covered in pigs, the filthiest animal to them, and the most unclean animal. And this island's filled with it. This land, and it's just on the other side of the sea. And Jesus tells his disciples, "Let's we're going over there," because he's gotten word that there's a mission over there. So because he's got a whole crowd, and he's been teaching them all day, and he stops everything. He's like, "Let's get in the boat and go." And they're like, "Whoa!" I mean, they must be. They don't question it. We don't hear about that, but they must be going. Jesus wants us to go to a place, a pagan place, where we're not accepted, and we'll probably be murdered, killed. Who knows? This is a terrible place. But he's like, "Get in the boat." They get in the boat. They're on the way over to this dark place, and immediately the enemy clearly does not want them to go. A storm brews, and not just any storm. A storm to scare professional fishermen. These are men that they know storms. They've been through, I'm sure, countless. It's a boat full of fishermen, and this storm is apparently intense enough that they are freaking out. We're all gonna die. They're like, what are we gonna do? The water's coming into the boat. There's a squall. There's lightning, thunder. It's noisy. It's terrifying. It's terrified these professional fishermen. Like if you watch the World's Deadliest Catch, those guys are used to it. And when something crazy's happening, they're kind of like deadpan about it. So imagine if they're losing it. If they're losing it, this is no ordinary storm. Although this sea was known for its storms, it definitely certainly had storms, but this was an intense one. This was like, I don't want you to go here. I don't want you to go to Gerasene. So they go to Jesus. They run to him, and they're like, what do they say in I think it's 40 or
Teacher, don't you care if we drown?
Teacher, don't notice this too. They call him teacher. They're not son of God, Messiah, Christ, King of Kings. They say, teacher, don't you care? They wake Jesus up, he's a carpenter, son of a carpenter. They wake him, he'll know what to do. So they wake up, teacher, don't you care that we're about to die? And he got up and rebuked the wind. Basically, boop, he put his hand up, said, he rebuked it, and said to the sea, hush, be still. And the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm. And he said to them, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? And they became very much afraid, and said to one another, who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Well, he just told you who he was. Who is this man? He just told the storm to be still. Now, if we look at that 46:10, and we hear say, be still and know that I am God. He was telling his disciples in this moment, in that boat, he's like, I'm God. That's who I am. I know the question you're going to ask before you're even going to ask it. I'm going to answer you before you've asked it. I'm going to tell the storm who I am. Maybe that'll enlighten you a little bit. But instead they were afraid. They're like, whoa, who is this guy? Now, no ordinary storm that is scaring the bejeebus out of fishermen. Their teacher gets out. Obviously, they're huge fans of him, but this is like in the middle of his ministry right now. And he stands up and says, hush, which is basically, shh, peace, peace. Immediately to whatever the enemy was conjuring up, the lightning, the storm, the terrifying environment that it must have been like. If you've ever been out to sea, it's kind of a spooky, scary place anyway when there's not a storm. There's just this feeling of this ominous feeling, but then can you imagine if like the water's pouring into the boat, which it says it is doing, the huge winds are about to capsize your boat, and he just stands up and says, hush, be still, and it does. It has to obey. Then he turns to him and he's like, what? Why are you afraid? We're in the boat right now, and there is a storm. And it's not maybe it's brewing, maybe it's just settled, and maybe another one's coming or whatever, or maybe you're right in the middle of it. And there's lightning, and there's thunder, and it's loud, and it's terrifying. Just know that he's in the boat with you. He's going to look right at you and say, hush, be still. Know that I'm God. God is with us. I think that's, where's that? God's with us. So who
can be against us?
Yeah. I can't.
No.
Anyway, so including that storm, including whatever you're facing, whatever we're going through on a daily, whatever it is, just if you're driving and you're in traffic and it's bumper to bumper and you're late for an appointment that you have to be at, there's your storm. That could be your storm. Just look over to the passenger seat if there's no one in it or whatever. But just know that God's in the car with you. He's in the car with you.
So good.
If you're at the interview and you're late or whatever, and you're like about to be called in there, and the nerves have got your heart's racing, that could be a storm. Just look over to the seat next to you if there's no one in it or whatever. Just know that God's in that waiting room with you. And better yet, he's here. If you've accepted him and asked him in here, you basically have invited him into your boat for eternity. You will all never be separated. In Romans 5, Paul just says, I'm absolutely convinced that nothing can separate us from his love. Nothing. No storm. Because what does God do when it comes? He says, hush, be still. Chill out. How many times does he say, don't be afraid, don't worry. Be still.